Peace, Black Power, Brother Bobby. How you doing, brother? Welcome
How
back
you
to
doing?
the House of Consciousness
All right.
Information, where we document our story on videotape. Welcome back to the War Bunker, brother. How you doing?
You know it. I'm glad to be back here. Glad to be back in Harlem, USA.
You know, the last tape we did, man, everybody seemed to love that tape.
Yeah.
The return of the ancestral warlords, where we was breaking down the lynchings, and
Yeah.
man, that tape is still selling on the streets.
Oh yeah, and I urge people. I urge people to get it.
That's right.
I urge people to get it. I want to take the time right now to introduce one of New York's own sisters. This is Iya Fashade Jamila Bihati. She's a priestess in the Yoruba, but I want to get this right. What type of priest in the Yoruba? Iyanifa priestess. Priestess of Ifa, and that's you.
Okay.
She now hails in Atlanta in the ATL, but she grew up right here in New York, and as you can see, we got one of your queens away from here and all, you know, and as you can see, she is that of a queen. But ATL got to have something going on, so therefore, you all can't have all the beauty. So,
that's right.
so we did just that, you know.
Straight from Bed-Stuy.
Do or die, Bed-Stuy.
All right, brother. The first question I have for you, Brother Bobby, is I would like for you to tell the people more about yourself. How did you get started into seeking the knowledge of self? And was you brought up in Christianity or something like that in the home?
Well, I'm from South Carolina, which is the Bible Belt. Which was the Bible Belt. And as tradition, you know, you brought up in the church or whatever. Fortunately for me, I was brought up in the AME church, African Methodist Episcopal, and as you know, they can be a little bourgeoisie type of thing going on up in there. My church was in Mullins, South Carolina, was so-called the upper echelon of churches, which means you got a borderline thing where you can get some people that can think a little bit. Fortunately, and I say that not necessarily to say to add light that the bourgeoisie are people that's these great thinkers. No, it's not that. It's just that because it wasn't such a radical form of fundamentalism, you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People had a little leeway to have some type of mind control not being there. And in this particular case, my mother was primary for that. When I used to ask the questions, well, if Adam and Eve was the first two people on earth, and they had Cain and Abel, and then Cain killed Abel, how the hell we get all the rest of the people on the earth?
That's right.
And she was like, I've been trying to figure that dumb shit out myself for a long time. I don't even believe in that stuff. Now, she told me that, I think I was in the 8th or 9th, I was like the 7th or 8th grade. So I knew then that there was an alternative, and she taught us the alternative and stuff because she was one of those souls that was before her time, living in the Bible Belt. You see what I'm saying? She's a school teacher, but she's living in the Bible Belt, and she has these alternative views and stuff that she can't really express around the masses of the people in the town. She expressed those things through us. So, in as far as religious aspect, although we did grow up in the Christian church or whatever, there was always this alternative escape route. And I started noticing these contradictions later on in life, especially when I got into college and on, you know. I remember being a freshman, and I asked this guy, I said, well, if everybody the people that don't believe in Jesus is going to hell, what about the people in the bush? What about the people in the Amazon, in the rainforest? What about people we see in remote areas of the world? And he stopped and paused and said, well, it's just too bad. They're just going to have to go to hell. You know, and it was interesting because I posed this question to him in 1980. And years later, I would read T.W. Doone's book, Bible Myths in this parallel, and he coined the phrase, he who knows one book knows none. And he said that he was a British Christian soldier, redcoat, going around the world to civilize the heathens. And he said, but everywhere he went, the heathens lived a more spiritual and harmonious life than he in his red coat in his Bible. And then he realized then that the contradictions, and he ended up writing Bible Myths in its parallels, T.W. Doone. So it was literally an answer to what I posed a question almost 10 years, 10 to 15 years earlier to a brother when I was a freshman in college. The same aspect, some old jackleg preacher, student minister. You see, so there was always that in the back of the mind. As far as my background, I went to college and majored in commercial art and fine art, and I was designing shoes also as this hobby that I had, and as a result, I was able to take what I knew with shoes. I was so good at it until I contacted a guy named Roger Bowman up here at the Avenues of Americas in New York, and he's been in the shoe industry for years. And I used to see his advertisements in GQ magazine. So I contacted him, sent a portfolio up here, and it worked. I mean, I was like, they looked at my stuff and said, oh, this is going to be the new black boy toy that's going to make us all this money.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have a brother a year older and a brother a year younger.
How hard is it for you to teach them a knowledge of self, as far as when you're getting into religion and stuff like that?
Well, fortunately,
yeah. When you're getting into religion and you come to them and you say, well, sister or brother, I got to tell you something. There was never a man by the name of Jesus Christ in the shape of a human form or body who ever walked the face of the planet Earth. What do they say to you when you say things like that? Well,
as far as my two brothers, I got a brother a year older and a brother a year younger. They was also taught by the same woman. So basically, a rare situation to have a family of consciousness. At least my mother and my two brothers. Fortunately, my mother would listen to what her baby boy says before she'd listen to what I say. But then again, that's just the protocol and all, because that's her baby. And the one that's a year younger than me. But as far as my brothers, they are all down with this and always have been down with this and all. And that's very rare in a family setting to have that many people. And and it bears witness of what my name in the Burgess Hieroglyphic Dictionary is, HEMMITT. My name is HEMMITT, and HEMMIT means a group of spirits, a group of advanced spirits in the last days. Well, it's interesting that I would have a family and have two brothers on the same accord. But as far as cousins, aunts, uncles, you know what I'm saying, and just the immediate family, I understand exactly where you're coming from and all. It's a very lonely thing. And the mind control of this, what was reared, or what they were taught when they was a child, is the hardest thing to break. And I'm talking about people who got PhDs, master's degrees, and it doesn't matter based on your status, your economic, or anything. This is some stuff that is put in you as a child that's hard to break. You see, so we do get that, we do get that, and we all know that it's a lonely path. It's a lonely path when we're dealing with this type of stuff, also, yeah. So.
Yeah, man. What if I was to tell you, brother? I have a big family, man. A big family. And I'm the only one that's in my family that's conscious, brother.
Well, it's interesting here.
That?
It's interesting
here.
I
come to my family and tell them about, there's never been a Jesus, there's never been a Moses, actually. And I try to get them to come back into ancient Kemet, and they don't want to hear nothing about that. I have to argue with them.
Well, you're not alone. Most of the people I talk to who have big families, usually it's one, maybe one more, maybe two to a family, and I know exactly what you're coming from. The spirit world, because when I tapped into the spirit realm, these are the type of questions I used to ask them. Why is this so? And the spirit realm used to answer to me and say, well, it's almost like, when someone dies, let's say if a person dies in California, you're on the East Coast, we have this thing where we'll send one family member out to be a representative. And everybody realizes that's the representative of the family. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to this particular consciousness. Each conscious person is a representative of at least damn near 100 people they know in their lives. If you know that many, but the immediate family. You are a representative of them. So therefore, in so many words, I'm looking at this thing and shaping up. It's all in divine order. They don't really have to be. They just need one person, and usually it's one per family. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
So therefore, you encapsulate all of the consciousness for your whole family that's big, and like you're saying, you know, you're the only one. And I think you're going to have to look at it that particular way, because otherwise, it's like a sister from Chicago said. This sister in 1997, during Christmas, it was like, maybe it was like a day after New Year's. And I said, yeah, what happened? She said, oh, I went home for Christmas. And she said, what? She said, oh, God, I had to literally suspend my consciousness for 2 weeks and put it in a box just to deal with them. I had to go back and be this old person I used to be, suspend my consciousness, because I can't never discuss it. I can't talk about it. And just become this mind-drone dead person sitting around the table talking about the average current events. What is Kobe Bryant doing? What is Michael Jordan doing? You know what I'm saying? And who died, you know, and all of this type thing. But she said she could not talk consciously at all, and she said it was, she was able to do 2 weeks, and she said it was extremely draining.
That's right.
So we know about that type of thing where you have to suspend your consciousness around people, and that's really hard.
Let me ask you this question here, man. Are you familiar with the tape on the 125th Street, Brother Sarnetta?
Yeah.
Let me tell you this. When you out there building with people, have the black man or a black woman ever came up to you and started defending the white man? I'm quite sure you see
Yes,
that tape.
I saw that.
The white man walked up to me and
Yeah.
asked me, why am I showing the lynchings around here?
I saw that.
And two
And two brothers
Negroes
even grabbed him by the shoulder and hugged him and said, he's my brother.
That's right.
Um,
Called me the devil.
Right. I had that happen in the AU Center. We were talking about all this conscious concepts. There was a black girl sitting there at the table. Now, I see this black girl all the time. She know when she came into this particular store that I'm in, that's what we did. And she used to be there all the time. It was one of my homegirls from South Carolina, dead nigga. But this particular day, there was a white man up in there that she didn't know that the white man, we had already got on his butt about 2 or 3 days before and made him bear witness that the white man was the devil. In the sense of when he said, when we weigh based on the adversary and the people controlling the planet, he said, I must agree. But she didn't know this, that we had already gotten to this guy here. And most of those particular people, they are open-minded enough. If you put it down to them pound for pound and break it down to them, they will bear witness. But because they're logical and rational. This sister, we were talking there, and this white guy happened to be in there again. And after we got through talking and stuff, this sister got up from the table, went to the white man and said, I need to apologize for my brothers and sisters over there talking this stuff. And what we were, and it wasn't like we was being mean-spirited. We were discussing history. We was discussing history and discussing the truth. And yet she had to go and apologize. And this was a girl in her early 20s. So we're talking about, you know, that's not even indicative of that other generation, but it is inbred and ingrained so deep until the dead people, you know, become apologists for white people or buffers. It was very interesting.
All right, now, you know we're going to have no holds barred here, man. We're going to have to keep it raw, and I'm going to hit on some questions that most people would not ask you.
Okay.
Dr. Ben, we love our elder Dr. Ben.
Uh-huh.
But for Dr. Ben to give all of his books to Minister Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam and tell us because this is the only black man that I see that have a nation of black people. I have a problem with that. This is what the youth will come up to me and ask me. Why did Dr. Ben give Farrakhan his book?
Well,
he might as well would have gave it to the goddamn KKK or somebody for Dr. Ben to do that. Now,
I'm going to address
Dr.
that.
Ben, we ain't getting on Dr. Ben.
Well, I'm going to address that. Should I address this now or after I do the libations?
You can do the libations and then we can address that.
Yeah, great. Okay. We want to give the spirits some, you know, to open up the flow and all. Yeah. Ashe.
Ashe.
Zarabanda, Zarabanda, Zarabanda. Ashe. Santissima Muerte.
Ashe.
San Simon.
Ashe.
Mama Shola.
Ashe.
Madre de Agua. Madre de la Luna.
Ashe.
La Santísima Pedra Iman.
Ashe.
La Spiritual and Tranquilas.
Ashe.
Francisco C.H. Reyes.
Ashe.
El Cristo Negro.
Ashe.
El Cristo Rey.
Ashe.
Santísima Muerte. Santísima Pedra Iman.
Ashe.
Oticha T.H. Sheola.
Ashe.
Shumala. Omagumu.
Ashe.
Alcala. Locayo. Kakumbo.
Ashe.
Lavado.
Ashe.
Ishtar. Monu. Noku.
Ashe.
Mana.
Ashe.
Hinmatu.
Ashe.
Inmatu. Titi. Jova. Aset. Osar. Heru. Heru Aha. Harsefi. Kimifis. Legba. Oshun. Yeminya. Oya. Olakun. Oshosi. Olarun. Give me some.
Ifa.
Ashe.
Ashe. Yemaja.
Ashe.
Ashe. Mat.
Ashe. Okay. Segment. Ashe Sachet. Ashe Selket. Ashe Heru. Ashe Heru Aha. Ashe Sutnesi. Ashe Sutnubit.
Ashe.
Setesh.
Ashe.
Bar Sutek.
Ashe.
Eros. Dionysus. Epimetheus. Prometheus. Timothus. Shiva. Pravati. Sati. Asuras. Netters. Nephilim. Nibiru. Orishas. Titans. Latayafan. Tiamat. Ishtar. Astarte. Anana. Herheru. Nebhert. Mut. Kunsu. Ankop the Kunsu. Mintu. Mintu Sibara'a. Mintu Sing Sing. Kali. Kalima. Lilith. Layla. Lilitu. Ashe. Ashe. We're gonna. Okay, and
Muhammad.
Ashe. Yeah. Elijah Muhammad. Ashe. Malcolm X. Ashe. Ashe. Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey. Ashe. Ashe. W.B. Du Bois. Ashe. Harriet Tubman. Ashe. Booker T. Washington. Ashe. Yeah. Nat Turner. Ashe. Denmark Vesey. Ashe. Richard Allen. Ashe. Ella Baker. Ashe. 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 Yeah. So. Okay. All right. So to all gods known and unknown, Ashe. To all ancestors known and unknown, Ashe. Ashe. Okay. So you asked the question about Dr. Ben. Well,
to no disrespect, we love our elder.
Yep.
You know.
I'm still trying to figure this one out. Well, let's give the background on what happened. He wanted to leave his library to some type of group. He asked the Schomburg to take it, and they turned him down. They turned him down. I don't know, but my point here is, as far as the Nation of Islam, they're a very closed society when it comes to the community.
That's right.
I mean, no matter, although they're out there with the paper and all, they're not really a community-based organization as people think they are. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
It's more on a cult status when it comes to the community. So therefore, I don't see how the community can benefit from this. Sometimes it's like you give this stuff, but is the people in Chicago going to benefit from this? Now, Farrakhan said he's supposed to put this in a general library, but my point here is it's not characteristic of the Nation of Islam to be this national social organization that would do stuff like that. So it baffles me. It baffles me on why he would give his library to Minister Farrakhan, who had a chance to embrace more than the traditional Islam that he's been preaching, because the Afrocentric movement, you see, was going on right along with him when he was in the height of his career. And he really didn't embrace that. He still stuck to the same ministry as, the same ministry and platform on which made him famous, but there was so much more information out there. So he was the last person to embrace that. I mean, there could have been some type of organization, but you just don't know. You just don't know. I mean, it's not a rational.
First World and stuff like that. You know, you got the First World out there.
Mm-hmm.
You got a few organizations out
My
there.
point here is Wesley Snipes just did a documentary on him. As you know, Wesley Snipes did the one on John Henry Clark in Great Mighty Walk in 1998 at the Sundance Film Festival. They aired it, and now it's also on the Sundance Channel. He just completed one on Dr. Ben in 2002. So my point is, he has enough money. No, he completed it, but it's not out yet. But my point here is, if he has the kind of money to do a documentary, he has enough money to put together a small library. You see what I'm saying? A building and a small library and stuff. You can buy a building for for nothing, just like one of these brownstones right here in Harlem, and make a general permanent library.
That's right.
You see, and so it baffles me. What is actually going on, but we're just going to have to see. I don't know the motives or whatever the deal is, but we're just going to have to see whether Farrakhan does the right thing. But as far as the community is concerned, we're talking about a man that is seen mostly with white folks now than he is the black people. So, with the roundabout things that he was doing lately, I'm really weary about things.
Okay. Dr. Malachi York.
Yeah.
Have you seen the sentencing of Dr. Malachi York?
Yes, I saw the
when
tape.
I speak to people, they still defend this dude, man.
Yeah.
They tell me things like, well, I don't think that's him. Shit like that. Or they did something to him. That bastard is dirty, man. He raped our kids, man. He raped our children, brother. What is your take on that?
I saw this, and that's the misfortune of being in a cult. When you're in a cult, too often the people give up their core center. They call it the core center or the core belief. And basically, they become codependent, you see, on this social order. And so, therefore, it's a psychological conditioning on the reason why they can't face the facts that this man is guilty in the particular aspect that the way he came at them as this messianic being.
Who are you talking about?
Dr. York.
Oh, okay, all right.
As this messianic being. You see, the way he came at them, showing his line of genealogy, and he's this messianic person. So they believe so much into that until when it's snatched, it's almost like a child going through a divorce. It's a complete disinheritance, a discombobulation, a psychological trauma, of a person that, is totally blown. And so what happens is the body and the mind tries to compensate with that. And in so many words, it's just like children who have a traumatic past. They try to suppress things and try to, in this particular case, these grown people are trying to suppress what's going on and there's so many escape routes by saying that, well, the general government is after him. Well, we would say that the government is after all black leaders.
That's right.
But the point I'm trying to make,
not only the black leaders, but the black man, period.
yeah. So my point is, that's really, but so you can go that route. But my point here is, he, as a person, knowing that he's a part of an organization, should have known better.
That's right.
But the way they were saying, and the way this tape is going, we're talking about one of the greatest child molesters in world history. Literally countless of children. But the point I'm trying to make with the followers is, why did he plead guilty? If it's so.
Well, his followers would tell you because he wanted to free the other women that got arrested with him. That's bullshit, man. That is straight up bullshit right there. You know what I'm saying?
But my point, But my point here is they get ready to give him 200 years. They reduced it down to 15 years plus 30 years probation. And he took that. Well, he's already in his 60s.
Damn.
You see what I'm saying? The late 50s. So, I mean, that's like 100 years if you already in your 60s. So they're going to give him 200 years. But I think that basically, if it's a legitimate warfare, if it's a legitimate castration of the black leader, then you're supposed to go down with the sinking ship. You see what I'm saying? Because it strengthens your cause.
That's right.
But he literally, you see what I'm saying, disassociated himself from the cause and basically destroyed his particular organization psychologically, because what he's done here is, by admitting to this thing, you see what I'm saying, it literally messed the entire organization up as far as how they're going to be able to live that down. He admitted to it. And even if he was wrong, it does look like some type of a real punctified way to deal with this thing. You see what I'm saying? But my thing personally, I think the whole concept here is he knew something was going on. And if you see the tape, how could he get away that long? I mean, this guy literally was raping children. Now, it's interesting in here because he got a son down in Atlanta that's 8 years old, and the son's mother even said that he even was with the son. So we're talking some crazy stuff here. You see, so
they also talked about how he was sticking dildos up little boys' rectum, man.
Yeah, all that's in the tape case. Right. And they said that,
to all of that.
And not only that, they said that they wouldn't have had anything on him, but he made tapes of it.
That's right.
And they made mention of the tape, and the courtroom said they saw the tapes.
And that's why he had to cop out.
Yes. So this is it's unbelievable. You see, but I must say this particular part also too, because this is a time that all black patriarchal leaders in this old system is biting the bullet. It's like if there's anything that is not the people's thing, some ulterior motive, self-aggrandizement, something where a person, some egotistical way that your movement is not the people's movement, this new system of what they call the rise of the divine feminine is coming in, or the Mayatean energy is coming in, and it is doing right. It is basically neutralizing that stands in the way. I mean, H. Rap Brown, he's gone. But he was down in Atlanta. He had the woman, the black woman in the veil. So that means she took a step backwards from Christianity.
That's right.
And she's completely covered up. So he's gone. You see what I'm saying and all? Farrakhan just retired, you know, but he went through his chastisement because he was sick for the last 10 years. And holy men never get sick.
That's right.
You see. Never get sick. So my point here is there's a cycle going on, and if you're not coming correct, you're biting the bullet.
That's what's happening.
We know this has to be this way even when the white Catholic Church was being exposed. You see what I'm saying? We know that this has to be the case. You know, Islam is completely uprooted. You know, after 9/11, they have no type of spiritual recourse in the world. If they was all supposed to be, Allah supposed to take care of them, well, doggone it, he's an absentee landlord when it comes to this white boy and what he has done the last 2 years based on Islam. So obviously there's something going on about an old order that's on its way out. And so it's a spiritual thing also. You see, on its way out. And so you have to look at these things. You have to look at these things on that particular level. But fortunately or unfortunately, those particular people that's disenfranchised in his cult, Malachi Yard's cult, because he pleaded guilty, means that the lawsuits are going to come in now. You see. And they've already been talking about this thing. And so it's going to be a lot of things. It's going to be basically, they're finished. Now, he tried to free himself 2 weeks ago on this Moorish thing, saying that he's a Moor, and so the law shouldn't apply to him on the same level as other people. But what he didn't realize was whether you were a Moor or fucking Japanese, child molestation and rape laws are international now. So that follows you to Kenya. It doesn't matter.
That's right.
That's international now. You see.
And there's something else that you have to realize, Dr. York, being smart and intelligent as you are, brother, the white man don't see you as no goddamn Moor. He don't see you as a fucking Freemason. He see you as a nigga.
Yeah.
Those are just labels and titles that you want to put on yourself.
Yeah.
He don't give a goddamn about no Moors.
But then again, on the other hand, he
none of that
knows
stuff.
all our history.
That's right.
He knows what we are, so you don't have to holler or
Exactly.
say anything to him. He knows what we are.
That's right. You still a nigga in the eyesight of the white man. It don't matter. All of us are.
Yeah.
We are all niggas to the white man.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? He changed the rules when he feel like changing
And
the rules.
as if to say that he's going to be fair enough to go, okay, now you are more,
Right,
so you
yeah.
can go.
That's right. You know, it's
I mean,
crazy.
even if we're talking about people that's legitimate that they lock down forever.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? We're talking about a people who has no proof of O.J. Simpson killing his wife, but still won't never let that go.
That's right.
And now the criteria for you to go to another level in Hollywood is you got to say on the camera that O.J. Simpson did it. You see, Steve Harvey had to do it, and he got his show.
That's right.
And now that his show is canceled, and Cedric the Entertainer was getting his show, he had to go in barber shop and say
Right. And
O.J.
that's,
did it.
Rosa
Yeah.
Parks, man.
And he also said O.J. did it.
Yeah.
You see, your boy Jamie Foxx did a HBO special. He had to go on and say that O.J. did it.
Chris Rock.
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle said it too.
Dave Chappelle. Watched him last night. He said it.
You see, so this is for something black people don't remember fucking 1995, let alone something. We don't think that way. To be that hurt about O.J. Simpson that we gonna say he did it 6 years after, 7 years after. We're not that kind of people. We got a 5-year attention, 3-year attention span, or maybe damn near 2 years. If I ask somebody what happened in 2001, other than the World Trade Center, we wouldn't know. So it's very interesting how that goes.
All right. Nibiru. What is planet Nibiru? And does that have any connection to Dr. York being arrested or locked down until Nibiru passes?
No, all that's bull. First of all,
Right. Phil said that was bullshit. too.
Nibiru means Neb-Heru. These things are, and it has something to do with metaphysics, and it has something to do with the Neb-Heru or the Nibiru is basically the coming of the pineal gland of the third eye. And although there's astronomical conjunctions, it has nothing to do with anything physical out here, where these particular people here are saying that he has to be locked down until that particular planet or whatever passes. First of all, if he was hooked up with the stars, he would never have been able to go to jail in the first place. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
I mean, there wouldn't be anything that the white man could do. You see that when you see the movie The Matrix and you see Neo. There's nothing they can do when there's one sent to do a certain job from the spirit realm. So that's the first thing. He wouldn't have been begging to get free for a whole year. So the whole Nibiru thing is somebody that's taking some of the mythology that he talked about and basically is just trying to, here again, make excuses, and all, and so it's just sad that, but that it's a brother lockdown. But then again, on the other hand, if the man has a child molestation cult, you see what I'm saying? You just can't go that route anymore as far as when white people are being exposed. You see, the spirit realm looks at it all as the same thing. They don't look at it as, even in the terms of color, whenever you are acting like the doggone white man, as a person thinketh, so is he. So you have to look at it that particular way.
Okay. That's peace, brother. That's peace. Child support. There's a lot of our people, our brothers, and some sisters too, that is on child support. And when I go down there to pay my little child support money, I see slavery, man.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't this another form of slavery?
It is, and
Because see, the children don't even get none of that money.
That's right.
That you giving them.
Right.
So I have to pay child support plus take care of my babies, and I
Right.
have 5 of them.
right.
So I'm taking care of my babies, plus I'm giving these goddamn crackers child support money. And if I don't give it up, brother, they will come to my home and arrest me.
Yes.
And arrest me, man.
And the laws are different in different states, but this is the worst form of slavery starting here in New York, and this is going to be the catalyst for the rest of the country. The rest of the country. Now, I need to run out here and take a quick break,
Okay.
and I'm going to come right back and deal with that.
All right.
We on?
Yes.
We back. Now, what we're going to deal with now is child support and the myth of the deadbeat dad. Now, here's an expose, and it's by Stephen Baskerville. Baskerville. And it says special interest groups have demonized divorced fathers and deadbeat dads and then criminalized them. The result, the system that traces all newly hired employees, shifts the burden of proof to the accused, and throws fathers in jail for losing their jobs. Now, we know that Bill Clinton in 1995 with the welfare bill, he signed the welfare bill in 1995, and you know these bills are this thick, and they give you the front page. So in so many words, they got a system that can just undo all the laws right before you, because the average citizen is never going to read any bills that's being passed. They give you what they want you to hear on national TV, and you accept that, but the bill is this thick and it undoes everything. So we know now that Bill Clinton is one of the worst presidents for black people ever had, and that's the one they love the most. But all entitlement programs and all types of things that were set in place for black people over the past 30 years was completely destroyed under Bill Clinton. Yet black people love him to this day. The key here is, and so bad until when Bush got in office, he had to reinstate some things for black people. Although it's not as if Bush is the great savior, he's saying, but by me being a newly hired president, and these things is coming based on me coming from the so-called Republican or the conservative, this stuff that they're seeing what Bill Clinton did, they're not going to believe that Bill Clinton did. They're going to put this stuff all on me. So the stuff that was going to be enforced was so diabolical with black people until he had to say, I got to at least veto some of this stuff until later on. And that way we would basically, the crab in the barrel syndrome, where we would slowly put these laws on black people and demolish them. Bill Clinton had it outright and set up all this stuff for black people, including taking the child support and merging it with the welfare system. Now, what they have done, they merged the child support with the welfare system. Now, child support is a system that gained momentum on the deadbeat dads, not based on black men, but based on white men. So in order for them to pass these laws based on the deadbeat dad, what they had to do was they had to go and show examples of rich white men skipping out on their children who clearly could pay. And they showed these examples across the United States of rich white men skipping out on their children. Now remember, now it is the rich white men, you see what I'm saying, that's putting this thing down because they can afford to pay. So what they did was they got several deadbeat dads of white men, rich white men across the country. To build the case of the deadbeat dad and the child support case, what you do is you would have something that's so ridiculous. You can't just put it on poor people because they say, well, you know, poor people don't have the money to pay such and such. Some of these people don't have jobs. So what you would do is you would go deal with some stuff that's just completely, blatantly irrational, like a millionaire dad that's a deadbeat dad. So they had millionaire dads with 6 figures that were deadbeat dads. So as a result, this made the laws intolerant based on the deadbeat dad and the child support, and it strengthened the child support laws in the early 90s. Meanwhile, it was a system that was put together to get nothing but the black man and put him in slavery again. Meanwhile, Bill Clinton goes and takes the welfare and merges it with the deadbeat dad of the child support, because now the child support has the laws to incarcerate people. See, they strengthen the child support laws, so child support is this major entity like drug enforcement. It's on the same level. The laws that support drug enforcement, you see, they strengthen the deadbeat dad laws or the child support laws so that they could be on the same line of being a strengthened entity to go after the dads. Now this is all for black people. Then Bill Clinton comes in and does the final stroke by adding welfare to it. And then he says, but for those people on welfare, what used to be assistant or an aid is now a loan. And you have to pay this loan back. So he took something that was an assistance, was an aid, from 1968 and made it into a loan. First of all, that's against the law, but it's not against the law if you understand what I'm getting ready to tell you. So he said you would have to pay welfare back. Now, as a result, black men in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, these are the major cities, states right now, maybe D.C. It's in the northern states now and it's getting ready to move across the country. Now, don't get me wrong, there's stricter deadbeat dad laws that's so strenuous down in Georgia and other things, but this key element hadn't been added on yet, which is the welfare phenomenon. So now you got brothers that now have to go and pay welfare back. So they would take a child and a birth certificate and say this child received welfare from such and such a time, from 1975 to 1980. And that father now owes the welfare system back as a debt and have to pay them back. As a result, because he has to pay, because he's in default, the same laws that apply for child support is enforced when it comes to the welfare. So this means that the person who's paying the welfare back, their children don't even see it in child support. And it also means that you could have some people in their 40s. Their fathers have to pay back welfare. And these children are grown. Some people that's been in jail for 16 years and get out and find out that they got to pay back welfare under the guise of child support. But the children don't see any of the money. And it has nothing to do with the parents or the mother not reporting them, because they're going to get it anyway based on birth certificates and based on a system. So, you got, and how do they do it? They garnish you your check. So working fathers, they garnish you your check, and one brother who was making something like $500 a week was coming home with $100. After taxes, garnish you his check, and after taxes and other things, he's coming home with $100. You see what I'm saying? So the ones who can't pay, they say you have to pay something, a minimum of what, $25 a week? But you have to pay something.
$50, $53 for one child in New York City.
Okay.
It's $53 for one child in New York. And matter of fact, it depends on your income.
And it
Yes.
depends
How much
on
you
the
making.
judge also.
Yeah. I know I was making 600 and something a week as well, and I was coming home with like 2 and change, man.
Mm-hmm.
200 and change after all the taxes. Then they was garnishing my check as well. Cause see, nigga like me, I was like, fuck y'all motherfuckers. Get it the best way y'all know how. I ain't paying y'all niggas shit. You know what I'm saying? Then they started threatening my freedom and shit, saying, yo, well, damn, I had to, matter of fact, I'm just coming off of a case of getting my own lawyer. I had a lawyer to fight these bastards, man. So, you know, I worked in some way where I be paying them something. Well, you know, just to stay out here with my babies, man. Because these motherfuckers will lock you down. And I'm not going to win like that. You know what I'm saying? So I said, all right, fuck it. I'll give y'all something. But I wasn't paying these motherfuckers shit. They had to take. And they was taking their money from me.
You know.
That's
Straight up.
extortion.
Extortion, yeah.
Yes.
Extortion.
That's
Well,
what it is.
It's yeah. And so now you have people's checks being garnished, and if you don't have a job, they're still saying you still gotta pay or you go to jail. Now it's interesting because I was in Pittsburgh doing a lecture, and one of the brothers is a retired, he's a police officer that's getting ready to retire in 2 years. And he told me, he said, there ain't no crack up in them jails. He said there's no crack, cocaine,
You can read that.
and all.
Just to show our people. That's real.
Read this. Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
let the sister read that.
He's saying there's nothing,
so
only thing
true.
that's on the floors in those jails in Pittsburgh, on every floor, is child support.
That's right.
Yeah.
This notice says this is a judgment, and
Move
it's
closer,
saying
move closer.
But,
Yeah,
okay.
move closer, man, because you got the mic on.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
the notice says your willful failure to obey this order may result in incarceration for criminal non-support or contempt. Your failure to obey this order may result in suspension of your driver's license, state-issued professional, trade, business, and occupational licenses, and recreational and sporting licenses and permits, and imposition of real and personal property liens.
See,
They will
that's it.
take everything from you.
That's right. Man.
Everything.
That's slavery.
And not only that, we're talking about being in default where you can't get a house, you can't get anything.
Right.
You basically, it's the same thing. You can't get a car, you can't get anything because you are in default. Now this is interesting here. Now this is all under, and they can back all this up because they have fused in the welfare thing with the child support laws, which were strengthened. Now people are still asking, how can you take, and this is the great mystery, how can you take something that was an assistance or an aid when it was first installed in the inception, and now turn it into a loan? That's against the law. So that asks the next question.
Hold him, man. Just take a look at that shit.
600.
They crazy as hell.
Right.
Get it the best way they know how.
Wow.
Remember you said something.
And how much of that is going to your children?
None of it. None of that shit is
That's the
going
thing
to-
about it. None of this, this thing is so devastating to children, don't see any of it. You can say there could be some consolation if your child was getting all of it. You say, well, what the hell? He got it going on. But my point here is you don't see any of this, which goes back to the same question. How could they take a loan, which was an aid, make it into a loan, install it into another program for the laws to come and lock you down and get the money, garnish your checks? How can they do this, which leads to the other question? And I asked this question to other brothers. Did you see any white men down there?
Hell no. You can count them on your fingers.
Now, being that the white man and being that the white woman was the biggest recipient of welfare in the country, it makes sense. There were more of them. They got more states. They got states that don't even have black people in damn near. So there were more white women on welfare than black women. But yet there are no system. One brother says it's a whole different system. They don't even have to go through this. Now let's go into the great mystery on why the white man don't have to go through this, which owes the most money. Because the white man don't owe a dime. Why? The white man don't owe a dime because the white man is, and this is where it comes, and this is the great mystery, he's a United States citizen. We are property of the United States government based on these particular, the 14th Amendment and all this. They talk about how we are contract slaves. We are contract slaves. And so people say, well, how do you say that, Bobby? We were emancipated from slavery, servitude, and chattel slavery. There was never no induction, no ceremony, no decree, no mandate, or nothing to induct us into United States citizenship. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, we are called contract slaves of the United States government. So what was supposed to be an aid in 1968 or 1964 or whenever this stuff was, it was what it was for the white man. For the aid only applies to citizens. But because we are property of the United States government, are contract slaves, and I'll give you the other word, which explains it in a few minutes what we really are and how this goes. Some people say, how can you get away with this? Because we are not citizens. Ours fall under the law of other sovereign countries like Philippines, Jamaica, countries in Africa, countries in Europe, where they owe the government money back. Where they owe the United States government, these poor countries, especially the quote-unquote third world countries that we call first world countries, that owe the government millions of dollars. We fall under that because we're not citizens, so therefore it's a loan. You get it? Mm-hmm. That's the mystery. So some people say, well, how can it be a loan for that, but we can take place in all other rights as citizens? Because you can do that, and that's why the affirmative action thing that came down recently was very important. We can do that because what we are under is not based on citizenship. Because we are contract slaves, we have what is called privileges. And a privilege is something that is given to you that can be revoked. And they revoke it based on what section of that privilege that they want to give it to you, they revoke it. So the other things haven't been revoked yet. It's in the movie Starship Troopers. The book was written in 1958, where they talk about in this country you have civilians and citizens. Citizens have all inalienable rights as citizens. But civilians have to have things given to them, privileges, and they can always be taken away. We have privileges, and those privileges is yes, you're privileged to go out and vote. You're privileged to go out and take part of the process as a citizen, only until they revoke your privilege on what section they want to revoke your privileges. So they revoke the welfare privileges from the past 30 years. You didn't have to pay it back. But they revoke those privileges, and there's a difference but having privileges. That's the same thing of how they're going to try to repeal the Act, and they have to have a Voting Rights Act every 25 years or 26 years. No other race has to do it. And that means that the Africans that come to this country that is inducted in the citizenship, the Italians, the Irish, or anybody in the country, and I said African because they're blacker than you in color, but yet they are a citizen, and they can go further than you than what you can based on they want to get rid of the privileges.
And you can see that going on right now.
Exactly. So they are more citizens. They are citizens. So that means that everybody that come off a vote that goes through and get their citizenship in the 7-year have more rights than we do, and we're still under the privileges. No other person has to vote for a Voting Rights Act. It would be a Voting Rights Act if we were citizens. Government contract slaves that need privileges. So these are privileges. Now, the good part about that is that still makes us sovereign. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. One brother in Atlanta in 1995 made him up a passport, put his own seals and whatever he does because he's sovereign and all of that. That's have to be a wide body of people. It depends on what you decree. If you're free, then you can be your own nation. And so he made up a passport, certain symbols on it, which meant something. And he laminated it, and he flew out of the country, and the passport passed in 5 countries, including the United States, because he had a plane to go to a foreign flight. You still have to show your passport. Now, how could he do this in 1995? Because we are sovereign. But on the other hand, when it comes to what is going on, that's one aspect, but this all Christians. If we don't have the freedom of speech, the right to laws that is inalienable rights to other people, goes right along with the terrorist bills, the subversive act, and all these other things that is going on. See, this goes right along with those particular things. So, this is what's going on here. It's a form of slavery, more slavery in the particular aspect. This is literal slavery because we're not citizens to defend ourselves. So we have no legal recourse other than being your own sovereign person. And this is like you and other people have done. Basically, you became, you left them so they wouldn't have to garnish your check, right. And you basically what, and you become creative. Keys of this type of thing to become creative, and that's a form of. But yes, this is the key now. That northern, but this, when they get rid of this whole country, and it won't, man, loan in 1968 was didn't ask for it. He was given a loan. You see what I'm?
The psychic of this white man's mind, man, when he comes to you and tells you to pay child support when he still refused to give reparations, man. But we still our fucking pockets being a slave, paying this motherfucker just.
And not only that too.
That's
that case if he's gonna. Then one of the privileges we don't based on income tax. Based on income tax. You getting hot? Getting hot? Okay. Based on income tax. That's a privilege that we don't need. You know, based on income tax. But then again, on the other hand, come out complete slave when he can be selected on what he want to charge you for. You see what I'm saying? So basically what we're talking about here is what is going on here is we're talking about someone that when the dust clears, he's still saying this imperial system that has always been in place better than ever, to the point whereas basically they got you under mind control because ignorance of the law. When you find out about it, you're damn near helpless if you want to remain in the system. You see what I'm saying? It still goes back to this particular